Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 2 in a best of 5 between Walther and włochaty in the grand final of the Steel Division League Code S. Today we are going to be seeing Sainte-Mère-Église, and on the allied side Walther is playing the 2nd Armoured French, and on the Axis side włochaty has chosen the 91st Luftlande. I think these divisions are really nice to see. Walther using the 2nd Armoured, which he did get beaten by in the first game, looking to replicate the success włochaty had with that division. And then włochaty is playing the 91st, which he saw Gonzo have success with in the semi-finals. And I really am excited to see his take on how he uses the division, because it does have an abundance of infantry and really does rely on that infantry support to get it going. So it's a division that I can see would work well in the hands of włochaty, and therefore he may find himself a second victory here. But Walther, of course, very aggressive division with the French and has the infantry to gain ground early on, but if it maintains around the 50-50 for a significant period of time, włochaty will come out with the advantage due to the infantry availability, I feel. Now if we look at the map in general, it is quite infantry focused, especially along the 50-50. On the top and bottom side you're fighting over these orchards, and that basically means that sort of infantry with better than 100 meter range HE will do well. So things like Nueve on the side of the French, and things like Fallschirmjägers on the side of the 91st Luftlande. So those are the engagements we're going to have to look out for on the top and bottom side. The town, however, is a little bit different. You'll be relying quite a lot on flamethrowers here, as well as the HE grenades out of things like pioneers. So we will have to see what sort of units włochaty can throw into the town in order to contest against the French, because I feel like early on the French actually get the advantage in the town with things like the pioneers coming in the WC-52s, and also the 2-man flamethrower squads. So I feel like włochaty has to focus on the top and bottom side, whilst Walther kind of has to push through the middle and then use the middle area to dominate the top and bottom. Because, for example, if Walther can push through here and get all the way to the other side of the town where włochaty is, then he can utilize the roads heading like up and down on the map to cover those sides of the map and allow his other infantry to advance. So that could be a very strong position to take for either player if they manage to. Now here on the side of włochaty, on the top we do see some Fallschirmpanzerabwehr. He's got the Fallschirmpanzerschreck and also the Fallschirmjägers. On the main road it's going to be just some Ersatztruppen, and then on the bottom side we do see a massive force actually. This is a Stör 42, that's going to be a Pack 40. And then we have the Fallschirmflammenwerfer. There's going to be a unit of Fallschirmjäger in there, 2 units of Ersatztruppen, the unit of Fallschirmpanzerabwehr and the Fallschirmführer. So a large concentration heading down here towards this orchard. However, saying that, 3 of those units are actually heading up to the town from this bottom side road. I always forget about deploying down here to avoid being shot up the main road. And it's something that włochaty is going to be taking advantage of here to get his units into the town more safely. Over on the side of Walther, he's actually investing quite a lot into the top side, M8 Spy with the M5A1 Stuart. There's also going to be the mortar there to support that, Nueve and 2 units of voltages in their half-tracks. For the town it's going to be 2 units of flamethrowers, actually 1 unit of flamethrowers, with the recon infantry for the top side of the town. Nice position for that. Nueve with their half-track, and on the bottom side it's just 2 units of flamethrowers. Now, Walther has to be very careful here that he doesn't just lose this bottom side entirely, especially considering there is the Stör 42 and the Pack 40 ready to push down here, but there is actually no infantry to go with them. Very interesting that you'd bring in a Stör 42 and not have any infantry to sort of utilize it properly. All of that infantry that was coming in went to the town. I feel like both of these ersatz could potentially have been used in the bottom side and made a lot more ground. But of course, włochaty doesn't know that the bottom side is relatively undefended, so we'll be focusing on the town for the time being. Fallschirmflammenwerfer will match up to the flamethrowers quite nicely. However, on the top side, this infantry has been completely surrounded. Fallschirmjägers are going to find themselves falling back. Fallschirmpanzerabwehr have stayed hidden for the time being. The Fallschirmpanzerschreck, that's going to have to get well out of the way. Potentially look for an ambush in order to control this top side. Walther really off to a great start here. Just piling through this top area against the limited defences that Włochaty put in his way. And what Włochaty needs to do in reply is really put the pressure on in the town. Take out these Nueve if he can. And with the Nueve moving into that building, I feel like they're going to take quite a bit of damage there. They almost got themselves pinned, and that's something they cannot do because there is no command in the town. But lovely ambush here from the Fallschirmpanzerschreck does take out the Stuart on the top side. Will find itself pinned before the second shot, potentially. No, maybe not. Takes out the half-track as well. M8 Spy will then pin them down. But two crucial kills for the Fallschirmpanzerabwehr, because it does basically stop the continued aggression through on that top side. Walther's going to have to wait for his second Stuart to arrive to continue that push now. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Ersatztruppen have come in to support this Stuart 42. I feel like this could have been avoided by sending just a single one of these Ersatz to the bottom at the start of the game, but he's eventually brought in a new squad that will be continuing to push through. Has found that there are infantry on this bottom side due to the positioning of the front line here, so we'll be sort of walking around those. I don't think that the Ersatztruppen will want to take a flamethrower squad in the face, but in the mid, Włochaty has taken the town more or less. The flamethrower squads are still hanging about, but for how long we'll have to wait and see, because Włochaty does know that the squad is there. Meanwhile, on the top side, the Stuart has arrived and the Fallschirmpanzerabwehr have been dealt with. But look at this Panzerschreck squad placement. It's absolutely beautiful. Going to go straight into the side of the M8 Spy there. Does find the bailout. Now the M5A1 is going to have to take a wide berth around the edge of the town here, whilst the M8 Spy goes down. That's actually going to leave the M5A1 blind because there's no recon now left on this top side. And these Panzerschreck squads with their very high stealth are already hard to find. So, finds one there by sacrificing an M8, not exactly what he had planned. Now, Walther's going to have to fall back on his top side and wait for his infantry to advance to make sure there are no more Panzerschreck squads waiting in those tree lines. In the bottom side, Fallschirmjäger, they actually find the flamethrower squad, and the Stuart 42 helps take those out. Further up, Fallschirmjäger once again finds the flamethrower squad, and the Stuart 42 finishes them off. So, loads of ground being made down here, which is to be expected due to the lack of defences on the side of Walther, and as soon as Włochaty put on any sort of pressure, he did find the ground. So we are more or less back to 50-50, with the +1 swinging backwards and forwards. Fallschirmpanzerabwehr, they're actually going to go down as they advance towards these voltages. Now, you can't really count out the voltages since they do have 8 HE at close range. It's quite uncommon for these squads to not have machine guns, but in this case, the voltages do not, just like the Ersatztruppen, and thus, even though they have 3 weapons, they're all able to fire at 100 meter range. And that makes them pretty strong, actually. But Fallschirmjäger, they do absolutely rip to shreds the command infantry that came into the town there, and that is not good news for Walther, as he wants to continue that infantry engagement. I am actually rather surprised not to see any pioneer squads yet, but there is a potential that Walther doesn't even bring them in on his division, and thus is relying quite heavily on his flamethrower squads. So we are going to see the 20mm AA come in here. That's actually been unloaded in front of the Stuart because it got fired at. Not really a good place for the Flak 38 to stay, because if the M5A1 starts hitting on target, the Flak 38 will take a lot of damage due to the damage modifier bonus versus AA from tanks. Look at this on the bottom side there, as that Ersatztruppen really pushing forwards, finding a lot of ground. Fallschirmjägers taking cover for the time being, don't want to reveal themselves to the M10, it's HE and the 50 cal there. But on that main road, there goes the Flak 38, no problem whatsoever. And now Fallschirmjäger is going to be coming in on the top side to cut off some of this territory, or at least gain it back in Włochaty's favour, so that he can potentially push himself a +1. Now the Pak 40 has gone into position. It's going to be taking shots at the M10, Track wheel damage is not good news, as it will make the M10 very, very immobile. Spitfire Mark 9 is going to be coming in to strafe the Pak 40. There is the Flak 38 on that bottom side still alive. Stur 42 is going to continue the pressure onto the M10. There is the potential for the Stur 42 to actually kill the M10 due to it being open top, and the HE being powerful enough to get the kill regardless. So if that Stur 42 fires enough shots, we may just see a kill. Meanwhile, the Pak 40 is still going to be pinned down. Flak 38 not quite able to stop that from happening. Fallschirmjägers though, ideal engagement range here. Look how quickly they pin down the voltages. Also going to be able to pin down the Spey nice and quickly. M5 half track will be able to stop the Fallschirmjägers from advancing most likely, but with the help of the Pak 40 when it recovers, this bottom side should be completely under control of Włochaty. Meanwhile, on the top side, HS129B3 does come in, finds the kill onto the Stuart, so removing the last of the armor on that top side quite nicely. Meanwhile, in the town, Fallschirmjägers are being engaged by a couple squads of flamethrowers and the voltages. Ersatztruppen also trying to stay alive here and maintain that control in the center of the map. Stur 42 still hitting the M10. Pak 40 starts to take shots to the M5 half track. Fallschirmjägers now can make a move. Going to be trying to get back the Ersatztruppen on the bottom side and regain that ground. Currently still a +1 for Walther, but with the loss of the Stuart on the top side, I think he's in a pretty tough spot, honestly, because now Włochaty is free to reinforce himself with any AP value unit, like this Panzer 39, and can push back quite easily. These voltages coming up against the Panzerschreck are not going to take a single man down. That is quite something, actually. A 2-star Panzerschreck not killing any of the voltages. Not something you see too often. But either way, Panzerschreck is dead. Voltage is going to be moving into the back of the town. Might be able to stop the advance of the Ersatztruppen and this Fallschirmflammenwerfer. Although this half track will also help pin things down in the open. Until, of course, the tank arrives. Fallschirmjägers. Oh, very close. They are going to be surrendered, actually, by the flamethrower squad. And that is how you get value out of those flamethrowers. A 2-man flamethrower squad surrendering 7 men in a Fallschirmjäger squad. That's a 20-point squad, I believe. 15-point squad, even. Surrendering a 45-point Fallschirmjäger. Anyway, here comes the Panzer 39. The Fallschirmflammenwerfer used its smoke to cover the infantry as it got unloaded on the main road. Voltages are going to be making a run for it, as they do not want to engage the flamethrower at the 100-meter range. Meanwhile, in the center of the town, the Ersatztruppen holding strong for now. The Fallschirmjägers are trying to get the better of the flamethrowers, but both players sort of dancing backwards and forwards in these buildings, try and get the better of each other. Stur 42 still trying to put pressure onto the M10. Does have to be careful that if the M10 recovers, that it could die to the AP of the M10 eventually. Spitfire Mark 9 going to be coming in with the bombing strike onto the Pak 40. Not too much that Włochaty can do about that at the moment until he invests into a bit better AA. But the Pak 40 doesn't die. It only takes a couple health damage. Now in the town, and the voltages, it looks like they're going to get eventually the better of the Ersatztruppen here. M5 half track coming in to help out as well. And Walther will have recovered himself the town, which is actually quite a nice move, considering he is unlikely to be able to continue that later into the game, mainly because of infantry availability. But on this top side, in the meantime, a new Stuart is on the way. That will be something that can contest against the Panzer 39, so I hope to see that come about. Meanwhile, up here, the Nuever should be looking for the surrender there onto the Fallschirmjägers if they can. Couple of half tracks. They've actually come all the way through the town here. Walther looking to cut off this bottom side salient that Włochaty has made. So both half tracks going to be engaging the Flak 38, looking to take that out. Pak 40 though is still live and will be able to weapon jam one of the half tracks. The second one likely to be pinned back down by the Stur 42 and the Flak 38, unless it's just straight up killed by that HE. And there goes the attempt at cutting off that salient. Walther's still in the lead, but lost his +1 due to that. Now we're going to be seeing a pack come in, pack 38 on the top side. That's going to be assisting in taking out the M5A1. The Panzer 39 for the meantime is just going to be taking cover behind the tree line. Fallschirmjägers, they're still pinned. Sturmpioneers trying to get the better of this top side as well, but they have found themselves shot up in the open. So it looks like Włochaty is going to be investing in a bunch of ersatz just to get the job done. But here comes the M5 half-track through the town once again. Another one, but Pack 38, of course, unloaded in its face. Goodbye to the M5 half-track. Black 38 going to be pinned down. Spitfire Mark 9's actually strafing that in order to remain in the sky and allow themselves to then take on the Pack 40 instead. Now I think it's quite interesting that Walther's managed to repel this infantry push on the bottom side from Włochaty. Really nice use of those flamethrowers to surrender that one Fallschirmjäger. Really put a spanner in the works. And has allowed Walther to maintain his position here over the open ground, regardless of the fact that his M10 has been forced back the entire time. Now Włochaty is trying to take out the M10 still. You can see him sneaking up the Pack 40 to a tree line that has line of sight onto the main road here, and also this M10. The Fallschirmjäger nowhere to be seen. They will need to sort of move further up in order to provide the command star there that will make that Pack 40 just that little bit more accurate and potentially allow it to get the kill onto the M10. Fallschirmjägers looking to finish off the voltages. Pack 38 on the top side did take out the Stuart here, allowing the Panzer 39 to continue and take out the half-tracks. So looks like these voltages and the Nueve may be in trouble if they incur the wrath of those machine guns on the Panzer 39. But just with all of these ersatz running in their face as well, it's not going to be very nice. But now we have moved into Phase B. Włochaty is relying quite heavily on Sturmpioneers, and this could allow him to take quite a lot of ground here. However, he is up against sappers on the side of Walther, and as long as those sappers remain a threat, and they do have 2 of those 20 HE power grenades that can literally one-shot enemy squads. But of course, flamethrowers are a little bit more reliable in a sense that you can dodge the grenades, but you can't dodge flames. Now the Sturmpioneers or flamethrower squad in the open here does go down. These ersatz troops are not dealing too well with the Nueve, but the voltages, of course, they've been pinned at range by the Fallschirmjägers. Ersatz, they're going to have to move in together if they want to take out the Nueve. Meanwhile, on the top side, M8 Spy gets ammo storage hit. The Panzer 39. Is it going to get the better of an M8 Spy? Nearly. Pack 38 was helping out. Now it's up to the sappers to get the Zukron target, and if they can, then the Panzer 39 should be dead. Meanwhile, Walther continuing his aggression up the mid here. Can the Fallschirm Panzerschreck take out the half-track? It can. Pack 38 going to be hit by this mortar on the top side. Looks like the Panzer 39 was eventually surrendered after the sappers missed their bazooka. But either way, the Fallschirmjägers on the bottom side, they've continued to try and push once again. Did, however, manage to recover the ground that the Ersatztruppen were making. Now, if the M5 half-track continues to push here and the Fallschirmjäger recover, the M5 half-track could really be in trouble because the 150 meter range of the Panzerfaust will get the job done, and there's nothing the Spy can do to help, so that's really unfortunate. I think a little bit of a miss micro there. Walther probably not paying attention to that half-track on the bottom side, and therefore loses quite a bit of ground for that, and pushes Włochaty all the way to a +2. So the attrition in the town is really not doing too well for Walther right now. His sappers have taken a lot of damage against the Sturmpioneers that came in, but did manage to kill them, so that is something. But now we see the 210mm off map, Włochaty looking to rely on that in order to kill any future reinforcements that will be threatening his lines. Meanwhile, on the top side, the Nueve and the Voltigeurs have been dealt with, but the Sappers now moving into position of that orchard. And Panzerschreck here, I think it probably could take a shot at this half-track, but potentially doesn't want to reveal itself with the M8 Spy in position. M4A2 is going to be taking shots at the Stör 42. That's going to find the track wheel destroy and the kill. Side armor showing, job done. Pack 40 probably just needs to be patient, wait for the M4A2 to potentially show itself in line, in line of sight, but not going to be able to get into position in time. Anyway, here comes the off map into that town. Poor old Sainte-Mère-Église. The amount of times I've seen this town get blown to smithereens is quite unbelievable, but regardless, Włochaty going to be continuing to put down that off map. The first set of off map wasn't actually that good. It only pinned down the sappers, whereas this time around landing on top of both of these sappers squad and their command could do a lot of damage. Also, if the M4A2 decides to get aggressive, then it could also get pinned down and maybe even surrendered. And the M4A2 doesn't want to continue this path. He knows there's a Panzerschreck there. You don't really want to allow that to be killed by a Panzerschreck. That seems like a very careless move on the side of Walther. Now the Marder 2 going to get the driver wounded as well, so the M4A2, well, it is going to go down. I think the Panzerschreck managed to get off a shot just before it died. But a lovely off-map is going to get the job done in the town. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, it looks like these infantry squads are eventually going to get dealt with. The Voltigeurs have come in, and with the help of the M5 half-track, should be able to clean up the Fallschirmjägers. This M20 could also be very useful, but is currently holding the front line in the mid here, as recon would otherwise not. And one thing we are seeing is Włochaty slowly but surely get the better of Walther, because Walther is losing sort of just general availability across the map. He's quite literally relying on an M8 Spy on the top side and a couple half tracks. And in the town, it looks like his poor command squad is going to take the full brunt of that off map with the arrival of the Sturm Pioneers, and I guess these are some normal Pioneers. And there goes the command. And these infantry going to continue forwards, almost get taken out by friendly fire. But no, they're going to be in the town and able to secure that quite nicely. So +1 for Włochaty, nearly a +2 once he sort of weeds out the units in this town. He should be able to take full advantage and really start to put pressure on the top side as well, especially with this Marder 2 getting into position. The Marder 2 will be able to kill off any of the half-tracks at range, as well as the M8 Spy. The M8 Spy can maybe push through on this top side, but it's only going to create a very small salient that won't really give Walther what he needs in order to continue through this game, because as we move into the late game, Włochaty is going to continue to just drive more and more infantry into this town, into these orchards, and it's something that Walther is definitely running out of sort of answers for if his sappers run out, which is something that I can definitely start to see happening here. Fallschirmjäger's going to be cleaning up these Voltigeurs most likely. M5 half-track, no chance of stopping that when the Fallschirmjäger are in heavy cover. So that's going to give even more ground to Włochaty. The Sturm Pioneers and Pioneers have cleaned out the two squads in the town. Fallschirmjäger Erlig, though, might die to the 30 cal. Bit careless there from Włochaty. Fallschirmjäger Erlig could have got into the 100-meter range and just killed the M5 half-track, but was not used to do so. Here comes double ME-109 G6R6. Spitfire Mark 9s have been forced to fall back, and the ME-109s are going to be able to get on their tail. And if both of those Spitfires go down, that's going to leave the door open for HS-129B3s. And that's where things can get very scary with the 91st Luftlande. So Walther, he does actually have in Phase C access to the Volunteers. Now these Volunteers do have the 20 HE, so they can be very, very strong in close range environments. But without the support of any armoured vehicles, it can get very difficult. And also with the ME-109 G6R6s strafing them before they even get into the town, it makes things rather difficult as well. So Walther, what he's going to have to do is get some AA for sure, because currently his M4s are very, very vulnerable to those airstrikes, those HS-129s. But the Pak-40, the 1 health AT gun, going to be taking out the M4A3-105. Nice job there by włochaty to find that snipe. Pak-40 without any veterancy getting the job done. And well, the +2 is going to continue. ME-109 G6R6 is free to strafe because the Spitfire, or the Spitfire fighters at least, are nowhere to be seen. Spitfire bomber going to be coming in to try and take out the AT gun here. Doesn't actually manage to do so. I think slightly missed the bombs due to the Flak 36. And the Pak-38 survives on 1 health. ME-109 G6R6 is not quite going to be able to catch up to the Spitfire in time. But it looks like the HS-129B3 has come in. Is going to take out the M4A376. Spitfire is under threat by the ME-109 G6R6s, but they've run out of fuel. And with that tank going down and with the Spitfire being forced back, Walther is going to surrender. And włochaty takes the second game in this best of 5 after 22 minutes and 33 seconds. So a rather convincing victory here for włochaty, 2,075 kills to 1,190 losses. Almost the 2-to-1 KD. Really, really well played in the end by włochaty. He managed to continue to contest the infantry as long as he needed to in order to gain an advantage over Walther, who seemed to run out of sappers, started to rely on the volunteers, but then sort of didn't have the sort of availability to continue that, nor did he have the air force to stop his infantry from being strafed, so they couldn't even get into the town in the first place to be effective in the place that they should have been. And then, of course, without the AA and without the fighters, he couldn't defend his tanks, and then the tanks got taken up by not only AT, but also the HS-129B3, and that was pretty much game over. So I think, like, generally towards the early to mid game, it was very close, but some key losses on the top side, especially the Fallschirmpanzer Abwehr finding the kill onto the Stuart early on, really sort of took the momentum out of the push from Walther. The second Panzerschreck in the back of the town from włochaty was really nicely placed, killed off the M8 Spy, and so włochaty just had all of his bases covered on that top side after the initial breakthrough, and it was really, really nice to see. The Nueva here did do pretty well, holding the ground on the top side at least. The infantry, I think, from Walther did as well as it could have in the scenario, because a lot of Sturmpioneer were used, and we didn't see them just sort of get the better of Walther in any way. He actually managed his infantry quite well to work around them. Like, he kept the 2 sapper squads alive and also found the kill with the HE grenade. So I think there was actually some quite good play here from Walther. It's just in the end, like, he ran out of infantry availability because włochaty was getting the better of him on that front. And the Fallschirmjägers killing off 4 units of infantry is very nice. But yeah, this Fallschirmpanzer Abwehr finding the kill onto the M5A1. Also the half-track, like, this early on is quite important because that half-track can be used to find quite a lot of territory. Although it doesn't necessarily have much punching power in itself with a 30 cal, it can definitely, take a lot of ground, and that's why taking out the M5 half-track is just as important. Not quite as important as the Stuart, but still important. Then the HS-129 picking off that lone M5A1 on the top side was nicely done. Just taking advantage of no AA, no Air Force at the time. Then the Panzerschreck here killing off the M8 Spy. This was very, very important because if this hadn't have happened, then the M8 Spy in the early game would have taken control of the main road when the Pak-40 was already deployed on the bottom side in Phase A. So I don't think that włochaty would have had much to stop the M8 Spies and the Stuarts from basically taking that main road and potentially the reinforcement point, because the only tanks that he had left would have been the Panzer 39s. So there was a very good chance here for Walther, like, if he didn't get killed off by a couple of those Panzerschrecks, to take a lot of ground, but he just couldn't quite capitalize due to the placement of włochaty's infantry, and that's what makes włochaty such a good player. It just has those units in places you would not expect. but they just do so much damage. The placement of the Pak 38s was quite nice to help out on the top side there. Killed off another M5A1 with that. The Falchion Panzerschrecks, again, look at that M4A2. Killed off a Sapper, squadron of voltages and 2 half-tracks. That was the one that was in the backside of the town. Did a lot of damage. And then, of course, the Pak 40 finding the kill onto the M10 in the end. And 1 health AT gunned the M4A3. Later on, the ME109s find the kills onto the Spitfires. That opens up the game, and Włochaty takes the victory. So, very well played in general from both players, I think, in the early game. But Włochaty just got the better of Walther over time, and that's what led to the victory. So that's game 2, 2-0 to Włochaty. Walther is going to have to win the 3rd game in order to stay in this best of 5. Otherwise, Włochaty will be the champion, the winner of the Steel Division League Code S. That would be absolutely insane. But either way, that is it for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.